You're 2 years old when your mother dies. You barely remember her face. You remember the smell of her room, and then you don't remember anything at all. 2 years later, a new woman moves into your house. Your father calls her your mother. You call her nothing if you can help it. Fast forward 3 decades. You're 32 years old. You still live in that same house on that same street, sleeping down the hall from that same woman. You've never married. You've never left. And in exactly 1 hour, 2 people in this house are going to be dead, killed with a hatchet, one blow at a time, and every single newspaper in America is going to spell your name wrong for the rest of your life, trying to describe what happened here. Here's what nobody tells you about being Lizzie Borden. You are Lizzie Andrew Borden, and you've lived your entire life inside a house that feels like a held breath. It's 1892 in Fall River, Massachusetts, and your father, Andrew Borden, is one of the richest men in town. He sits on bank boards. He owns real estate. Men tip their hats to him on the street. And yet, and this is the part strangers never believe, you don't have running water on the second floor. Andrew Borden could buy this entire block, and he makes you and your sister Emma haul water upstairs in buckets like it's still 1850. That's who your father is. Andrew Borden does not spend money. Not on you, not on comfort, not on anything that doesn't build the number in his ledger. Your sister Emma is older than you by about a decade, and she's the closest thing you have to a partner in this house. Neither of you married. You're the 2 spinster daughters of Andrew Borden, and everyone in Fall River knows your names and your business. Because that's what happens in a town this size when your father's this rich and this tight-fisted. Then there's Abby. Abby Durfee Gray Borden, your father's second wife. He married her 2 years after your real mother died. You were a small child then, and Abby became simply the woman in the house. You don't call her mother. You never have. Emma doesn't either. Whatever affection could have grown between you got strangled early, mostly over money, over whose family gets what when Andrew Borden finally dies. You've watched your father sign over property to Abby's relatives. You've felt the arithmetic of it in your chest like an insult. This house is rich, and you felt poor in it your entire life. There's also Bridget, the maid. Irish, 26, been with the family a few years. You call her Maggie sometimes because that was the last maid's name, and nobody in this house bothers to remember which servant is which. And one more person's in the house who doesn't usually stay. Your uncle, John Morse, your late mother's brother, has come to visit, sleeping under this roof for the first time in longer than you can remember. You lie awake that night listening to the house creak. You think about a spring afternoon not long ago when your father took a hatchet into the barn and killed the pigeons you'd been keeping. Birds you fed, birds you'd named, the only soft thing you controlled in this entire stone-cold household. He said local boys had been coming around to trap them. He didn't ask you. That's the kind of father Andrew Borden is. You don't know it yet, but tomorrow is August 4th. Morning comes hot and heavy, the kind of New England August that makes your collar stick to your neck by 9 o'clock. Breakfast is mutton. Leftover mutton again because Andrew Borden doesn't believe in wasting food, even food that's turned. Abby and Andrew have already been sick in the days before, some kind of stomach upset that ran through the house. Nobody throws anything away. John Morse eats with you that morning, then leaves to visit other relatives across town. It's the last ordinary thing that happens in this house for a long, long time. Bridget's set to washing windows in the heat. Abby goes upstairs to the guest room to change the pillowcases. Andrew leaves for his morning rounds downtown, doing what Andrew Borden does every single day of his life. Rain or shine, murder morning or not. You're somewhere between all of this. Later, you'll say you were out in the barn loft looking for lead to make sinkers for a fishing trip. It's a strange detail to remember so precisely and yet describe so vaguely. How long you were out there, what exactly you were doing, whether anyone saw you. No one did. Not one single witness places you anywhere during the stretch of time that matters most. At some point near 9:30, upstairs in the guest room, Abby Borden is bent over the bed when someone comes up behind her with a hatchet and brings it down on the back of her head. Not once, not twice, something closer to 20 times, until whoever did this is certain the job is done. The house goes quiet again. Bridget's outside, or resting in her attic room with a headache. She doesn't hear anything. A house this solid swallows sound whole. You come back inside. This is the version you'll tell over and over for the rest of your life. You came in from the barn, you didn't go upstairs, and you didn't know Abby Borden was lying dead in a room directly above where you were standing. Around 10:30, your father comes home early, tired, unwell, wanting to lie down. You help him settle on the sitting room sofa, and then, in the official telling, you go back out to the barn again, looking for that lead, for those sinkers, for a fishing trip that may or may not have ever been planned. While you're gone, or wherever you are, someone approaches Andrew Borden as he sleeps. 10 or 11 blows into his face and skull, so many that when Bridget finally sees him, she won't, for one confused second, understand that what she's looking at used to be a person's face. You call for Bridget. Come down quick, someone's killed father. That's the line history remembers. You don't say, I found him, you say, someone's killed father. Already naming it, already framing it, before anyone's asked you a single question. Bridget runs for the doctor. A neighbour, Mrs. Churchill, comes rushing in from next door, and it's Mrs. Churchill who finally asks the question nobody's thought to ask yet. Where is Mrs. Borden? You say you think Abby got a note and went out. You don't go upstairs yourself. Bridget and Mrs. Churchill go up together, and it's Mrs. Churchill who sees it first. A shape on the floor between the bed and the dresser. A shape that used to be Abby Borden, cooling, undiscovered, for the better part of 2 hours while the house went on with its mourning. They search the basement and find hatchets, 2 axes, a hatchet head with no handle, the wood snapped off close, dust or ash clinging to the metal in a way that looks almost too convenient. They ask you what you were wearing. They ask you where exactly in the barn you stood. They ask you to repeat the story, and you do, and it doesn't come out quite the same way twice. Not wildly different, but different enough that men start exchanging looks over your head. 3 days later, a family friend named Alice Russell walks into your kitchen and finds you standing at the stove, feeding a blue dress into the fire. I'm going to burn this old thing, you tell her. It's covered in paint. The mayor of Fall River had come to the house the day before and told you plainly that you were considered a suspect. And the very next morning, you burned a dress the same colour witnesses said you wore the day of the murders. There's no blood on you. Not on your hands, not on your face, not on the hem of your skirt. Nothing. On a morning when someone delivered nearly 30 hatchet blows to 2 human skulls. The police will turn this fact over and over like a coin that won't decide which way to land. It should be evidence in your favour. Somehow, it just becomes one more thing people whisper about. 11 days after the murders, they arrest you. You're charged with the murder of your father and the murder of the woman you never once called mother. You plead not guilty, or you say it like you mean it, and by now, nobody in Fall River can tell the difference. Your trial opens the following spring in New Bedford, and it's the biggest news event in the entire country. Reporters camp outside the courthouse. Newspapers as far away as New York run daily columns on your wardrobe, your expression, whether you cried, whether you didn't cry enough. Andrew Jennings, your father's longtime lawyer, stands up to defend you, and he does the one thing that saves your life. He attacks the evidence piece by piece and shows the jury there's no piece of it that actually proves anything. There's no eyewitness, the story about the poison, a clerk who says a woman who looked like you tried to buy prussic acid the day before the murders, never even makes it in front of the jury. The judge throws it out. The hatchet head from the basement never gets tied definitively to either killing, and the idea that a lady in a corset in 1892 could not physically or morally commit an act this savage does almost as much work in that courtroom as any single piece of evidence. Jennings leans into it. The prosecution never quite finds a way around it. You sit through it all in near silence, dressed carefully, watched constantly, described in every paper as either serene or stone cold depending on which reporter's writing that day. On the 20th of June, 1893, after barely an hour of deliberation, the jury returns. Not guilty. The courtroom erupts. Some accounts say you nearly collapse with relief. Others say you simply nod, like you expected nothing less. Both versions get printed. Both get believed by somebody. You walk out of that courthouse a free woman. Legally, permanently free, no one else is ever charged. Not John Morse, whose alibi was so detailed it almost worked against him. Not Bridget, who was in the house the whole time and somehow heard nothing. No one. The case simply closes, unsolved, with your name stamped across the top of it forever. Freedom, it turns out, isn't the same thing as forgiveness. You and Emma take your inheritance and buy a house on the hill. The good side of Fall River, the side your father's money was always good enough to be near, but never, in his stinginess, to actually live on. You name the house Maplecroft. You carve the name into the stone step yourself, practically daring the town to read it every time they walk by. You start signing your name Lisbeth now, like putting 3 new letters between yourself and the newspapers might actually change something. It doesn't. Fall River decided its verdict long before the jury did. Women cross the street rather than pass you. Your pew at church empties out until you stop going altogether. Shopkeepers are polite in that careful, overcorrecting way that means the opposite of polite. You've got real money now, finally, and it buys you almost nothing that matters. Then for a while there's light. You meet an actress, Nance O'Neill, full of warmth and none of Fall River's cold judgment. And for a few years you throw yourselves into a friendship that finally feels like joy. You host a party for her at Maplecroft. It should be a good night. It's the night that ends everything with Emma. Whatever's said in the argument that follows, it cracks something between you and your sister that 30 years of standing shoulder to shoulder through courtrooms and cemeteries never managed to crack. Emma packs her things and leaves Maplecroft for good. You're 50 years old, and the one person who stood beside you through the worst morning of your life walks out a door and doesn't come back. Not for a visit, not for a holiday, not once, for the rest of both your lives. You grow old in that house alone. Your friendship with Nance O'Neill fades too in time, the way most things around you eventually do. You die in June of 1927, 66 years old, of pneumonia in the town that never once let you leave what happened in it. 9 days later, in a nursing home 2 states away, Emma dies too. An old woman, still estranged, still silent, having never told anyone exactly what unbearable meant the night she walked out of Maplecroft. They bury you both side by side in the family plot, close enough to touch, the way you were close once, long before any of this. Not far off stands the monument you and Emma built together years earlier over your father and Abby's graves. The 2 people everyone believes you killed, and the 2 graves you paid out of that same inherited fortune to make beautiful. Maybe you did it. Maybe someone else stood in that house that morning and swung the hatchet while you stood in a barn looking for sinkers that may never have existed. Nobody alive today knows for certain, and nobody alive in 1892 ever proved it either way. What's certain is this: for 1 hour on an August morning, in a hot, cheap, silent house that your father's money built and refused to improve, 2 people died, and one name became impossible to separate from an axe for the rest of history. Whether you swung it or not, Lizzie Borden, you never got to put it down. If hidden rooms in history are what you're here for, subscribe, because there are a lot more lives worth stepping into, and we're just getting started.